I'm gonna.
Hey everyone, welcome to Land Week Day 3. Today we've got Jaren Barnes from the Land Maverick Society with us. Jaren, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. I'm honored to be here. Honestly, thanks for the invite.
Uh, Absolutely, man. We put together Land Week. The whole concept behind this was we wanted to give people education modules to really either A, build up their business from scratch, go from 0 to 250K in the first year, or B, really kind of gap fill in the places where they're just taking up too much time or just, seeing too much of a lag in profits coming in, looking to stabilize things. So give people all the things to do that. So we started off on Monday. For anybody that's here and missed that one, we started off on Monday with somebody you know very well, Jaren. We had Seth Williams from RE Tipster on, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
was just talking
Legend.
education resources and getting started.
Yeah, he's a true legend. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, he is. I told him, I said, like I'll sit in my hammock sometimes drinking a coffee, and a random land investing, question will pop into my head, and I've yet to not find the answer somewhere in the archives of our RE Tipster. Like
Yeah.
he's very in depth. He's covered a lot. And you used to generate some content for him, right? So
I actually worked. I worked exclusively for RE Tipster for 3.5 years. Yeah, I was the co-host and
yes.
all that stuff. Yeah, and
So
I did create some content and all that, and continue to do so here and there when I can. But yeah, man, 100%.
that's
That
awesome.
RE Tipster for anybody who's interested in land. That is the place to go. That is the step number one.
Yeah, and if you just go, everybody, you're on our YouTube live channel now. So if you just go back to those archives, you'll see the replay from Monday. Access that, and then once you get educated, I really wanted to kind of dive into market analysis and data best practices. So yesterday we had the guys from Priced on, and one of the things that I planned it this way anyway, to have mentorship and coaching be the next stage, which is why you're here today, why mentorship and community are the key to cash flow and calm. But I was looking at, I come from a pretty long sales and a marketing background, and I was looking at all of in that presentation yesterday for market analysis of all of the different filters that you can set for the land that you're looking for, all of the different things. And Seth talked about this a little bit, that you can eliminate in terms of getting properties that aren't going to be necessarily the easiest to convert or the highest profit margin. But something like slope, with it may, if you have the right set of buyers, still have some opportunity. So I looked at that and I'm thinking, there are, from a marketing perspective, I can think of 1,000 different A/B tests I could run here to see what's going to work in certain counties. But I know the profile of a lot of people getting involved in land in investing, or even those that have been involved with it for a while. They don't necessarily have a deep sales and marketing background. So having mentorship and having somebody that has run those tests and done like the hypothesis check, version of land investing, can be really powerful, because you can again, like, start to eliminate things that aren't going to work, so you can be working from a smaller box. So I think this conversation is going to be a real eye opener for people transitioning from that chat yesterday and maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with the possibilities, to going into this conversation where you see how to really funnel those opportunities into actual action plans.
Yeah, man. And here's the thing, guys. What launch control has facilitated for land investors is the closest I've ever seen to a true kind of franchise business in a box type model that we kind of help implement for our members at Land Maverick Society. But I just want you guys to just be very cognizant of the reality of the opportunity. Land, only 3 to 6% of the land mass is developed in the United States. So depending on what site you source. So that means that, like, even if 20% of the land mass in the US is viable for doing deals, because there's unusable land or federally owned land or whatever, there's so much threshold for competition. It's ridiculous. And with how affordable launch control is, guys. We really are there. So I'm very excited. I think if we were to kick this thing up, if we really kind of distill it down to the lowest common denominator, mentorship, community, paying for courses, all that, at its core, you are overcoming your learning curve faster. It took me 3.5 years of making mistakes pretty much, and like doing enough deals to keep me at least bought into the idea of this is a viable business model. But it took me 3.5 years as a side hustle to really get this business turned into a well-oiled machine. And you don't have to do that if you use, if you hire the right coach or the right program or what have you. You can, come, I got people that I work with within 60 days, they're converting, they're consistently getting deals. So it depends on your skill set and background and other things. But I think conservatively, within 90 to 180 days, there's no reason, if you have a good coach, that you shouldn't be at least converting a deal a week, or at least 2 a month at the very least, one every other week. So, yeah, I mean, how do we want to go about this conversation, Michael? Is this more of a one way where I'm doing a presentation, or is it a back and forth where you're asking me questions?
Well, let's get some of the big picture stuff. We'll do a little Q&A off the top right here to get the big picture stuff, and then share your screen and really kind of dive into specifically what you're doing, what you're seeing working with the Land Maverick Society. From my perspective, I think that the combination, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but from my perspective, the most powerful combination you can have, and this is not about how much it costs, it's really about finding the right fit for you, but is to have some access to one-on-one mentorship. Maybe not, you're not working full-time with somebody one-on-one, but have some level of one-on-one mentorship, and then a community that is truly actively investing. I'm not talking about like a Facebook group where you say, hey, anybody want a JV on this deal? You can find JV opportunities that way. Certainly, you kind of have to filter and be careful about who you're working with. But if you join the right community, you know who's in the community. You know what their deal is. You know what markets they're in. They're in some ways, everything funnels up to the mentor, and they're somewhat vetted by that mentor as being part of the community. So when you can put that combination of some ISO work with a mentor and then an actual trusted community, that gives you so much opportunity to gap fill for the things that you don't know. And it's okay that you don't know certain elements, like transaction coordination, for instance.
Yeah, or I mean, at the core for land investing, there's 3 core skill sets. It's running comps and due diligence, it's talking to sellers, and it's finding, vetting, and managing land specialized agents. So those 3 things, you need to spend the vast majority of your time mastering, at least in our business model. Some people don't use agents. Some people will sell on terms and that kind of thing. But we like that we get to outsource dispositions, and just kind of hone all of our focus and resources on getting more and more property. So that's how, those are the 3 core things. And it's really, you're pretty much a world-class expert at running comps and evaluating property if you're a land investor.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. That's like the most difficult component of what we do. And we oftentimes use land specialized agents to solve that. But all that aside, circling back to kind of talking high level mentorship community, I do want to kind of kick this conversation off for the viewers right now, introducing something called the 80-20 principle. So if you guys have never heard of the Pareto principle, there's an economist, an Italian economist out of I think the 1800s, that noticed that 80% of the Italian's economy, in terms of like wealth, was owned by only 20% of the population. And from that revelation, there's this whole theory that, or law of the universe, if you will, called the 80-20 principle that has been discovered, where even if you break it down to microbiome level stuff, like 80% of your infection are killed by 20% of your blood cells, whatever. Like the 80-20 principle is something that is truly built into the fabric of the universe. And what that translates to is practically only about 20%, maybe even lower, maybe like 10% of the coaches and mentors and courses that are out there are actually legit. The vast majority of the noise out there is going to be teaching things that are either outdated, oftentimes just pulling back the curtain. What you have is you have somebody who gets a certain level of success in a certain market climate. And then they start teaching that specific strategy, and it stops working because the market shifts or the climate shifts or something, the industry evolves. And so they've shifted their kind of income source from actually getting paid from doing deals to hustling more and more of these sales, of whether it's a membership sign up or a course or whatever. And it's really important that you come in and vet who you're going to be spending your money with and investing with, and that they actually are doing deals currently in today's market and getting results for people in today's market. Because if not, and it is very common that they're not, you might end up getting fed a load of goods that's not applicable in today's market. So just be careful.
So how do you go about vetting? Because like the 80-20 principle comes up a lot in REI, and I absolutely agree. And another analogy for this that I think is very apt is it's a really known thing in business that the top sales people often get promoted to management roles and they suck at it because they're very good at doing an isolated job. They're the best at it. But being able to then teach other people how to do that and mentor people how to do that is not in their skill set.
That's
so being
100%.
Yeah. So being a great investor does not equal being a great mentor or a great teacher. So part of the vetting process, I think, for me, is finding out like, well, who are they working with and what results have those people had? How has the learning experience been? Because you want to know, like, are you buying into learning, or is somebody just going to give you 3 bullet points and say go?
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point you make there. But I do think, there's a old scripture that says you'll be able to judge a tree by its fruit. And the vast majority of what is out there in terms of like real estate education, and not saying all of it, but the vast majority is maybe 10% to 20% of their overall community are actually getting results, but they put all of their like collecting of testimonies and noise behind their marketing, promoting that, where 80% are failing. And I want to reverse that on its head. I want like 90-95% of Land Maverick Society getting at least 2 deals a month or more, because I know we can if we structure it the correct way, because the business is viable. Like the business can support it. And so for me, that's a big one, is like, okay, either they need to have results themselves / and kind of better yet, to your point, what are the results looking like for the people that they've worked with in the past? The vast majority of who they work with should be able to say that they at least got to 1 deal or deal consistency, or really had good feedback working with that person. And don't go to that person. People do this with me on discovery calls all the time. Like they'll say, do you have somebody I can talk to or recommend? Don't get referrals from me, because I'm biased. Like I could like pay people in the back end to be queued up as that, right? Like you don't know me. Hopefully I'm not shady like that, but when you're in the vetting process, like go to the Facebook group and just at random be like, hey, people who have worked with such and such coach, DM me. I want to know what it's really like to work with them for real. And I tell people to do that on discoveries calls all the time. Because I think coach, people should be able to vouch for the results.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and talk to a variety of people, right? Because if you look at, say, like reviews online for any one product, doesn't matter what it is, or a hotel or whatever, you have to eliminate a certain number of the 5 stars and a certain number of the 1 stars. Because there are certain people that are just going to say, oh, this person is just the best. You have to work with them. They're amazing. And then somebody else is going to be like, garbage. I didn't get a deal. And you have to get the extremes out and find the middle group where they're going to give you that more detailed answer of, the first 60 days were a bit slow, but since then I've been averaging 2 deals a month. I've been with the community for a year and a half. I've probably made $400,000. Great. fantastic answer, exactly what you were looking for, right? But you want to get someone who, has actually shown that they've committed to the community and can talk to on a month-to-month basis, what does that look like? Because if you get somebody because we get this at Launch Control all the time, somebody comes in for 3 weeks, sends a few text messages, bails. That's not a fair reflection of texting as a active marketing tool. If you're not going to give it 90 days, don't start. 90 days is the bare minimum you need to give it to get fair results coming in. And the same is true for any community. You can't go in, pop a question off to Jaren, and then leave and be like, well, I didn't get value out of it. That's not how community works. You have to participate in community. So, you want to find those people that are actually active participants and can give you say, over 6 months, feedback on what their experience has been.
Yeah. And you really do get out what you put in. I got people who they'll meet with me 2 times over a sign up program for 6 months or something, right? And they got the the replays and everything, and maybe they were happy, maybe they weren't. But then I got other people, because I offer unlimited access to me, that meet with me on average 2 or 3 times a week sometimes for the first 30 days to really get a big lift, and are literally at every single time we have a community open event, or because I have several things that I do live for the community that's exclusive to our members, right? And they're always there. They're always early. They stay late. They always shooting me up with questions. And those are the people that are always successful, even if they're the ones that are struggling. At some point, the ones that fully engage are the ones that get breakthrough, even if they have to go. Everybody's hazing process is different, but it is a hazing process. You are going to get kicked kind of between the legs. So
I think that the fact that you make yourself so available and are willing to answer those one-on-one questions when they pop up, that's another thing that I think is really, really important to look for when you're looking at mentorship and community. From business development perspective, we occasionally, even at Launch Control, we'll have to outsource something, right? We need to work with subject matter experts on something. And that's one of the things that I'll look for when we're outsourcing is, are you looking at our individual needs and are you making yourself accessible? Because there's lots of gurus that'll say, oh yeah, we'll give you a sales growth plan or a churn reduction plan. It's going to cost insert some ridiculous amount of money. And it's just like a set of slides. And they go, here, just look at these slides and do this. It works for everyone. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work for everyone. That's impossible. And so for, how much available land did you say there was in the continental US? Like 70-something%?
No, like 93 to 96% of the landmass in the US is not developed.
Okay, so 96% undeveloped. You can't tell me, and I've seen heat maps of state by state of where the deals are being done and not being done. Like, you can't tell me that there's a 3-slide solution to mentorship, right? Like, it's going to require some actual one-to-one to actually have value, I think.
Yeah, and I think another big piece to it is understanding what you want to specialize in and being very clear on what your outcome. Like when I'm on a discovery call with a prospective member of our community who's considering, paying and joining and all that, I asked them, like, what are your goals? Like, if we were to distill it down to a monthly dollar amount, how much money do you need to make? Are you trying to quit your job? And then we reverse engineer it from there. If you're hiring somebody who's going to force a plan on you or force an ideology or a process and not really get into the weeds of fine tuning your unique needs and perspective and talents, I'll skip details like names to protect the innocent, but I'll use different names. But I had somebody in our community who was really struggling, and they hired a couple different coaches. And I'll circle back to that because another point is it's good to kind of keep the blinders on and not create a Frankenstein by mixing ideologies. But we'll circle back to that one. This couple was they hired me and they hired a couple other people, and they were just trying to get the best advice from all the different talking heads out there, put like this optimal system together, but it wasn't working. And the advice that all the other talking heads were giving them were like saying, "Hey, you can't hire, you can't outsource yet, you can't get an acquisition manager. Yeah, that's the last thing you need to do because it's so nuanced. You need to do it right." And the whole point of them getting into the land business was because they got pregnant, but they were a married couple, and they got pregnant and needed to quit their corporate job to spend more time with their kids and their son in the evening. And so their like literal time to be parents, which is the whole point of having the business, is from like 3:30, 4 p.m. until 7, which is the most optimal time to do your calls. And they have a corporate background of like 20 years experience training and hiring and leading teams. So for them, it's almost better for them to hire. And once I finally like gave them that permission, like, no, hire somebody, they're doing about a contract a week now. They got complete like breakthrough. And
yeah, that's great. I agree with that completely. It's like you said, it's so situational when they're coming from that
situation.
Yeah, that heavy sales and marketing background. Like Launch Control has done for you texting services for land investors. And so we can take the data that you've pulled, working with the data provider, working with you to figure out what the data strategy is. And then we can fulfill that data strategy via text for you, take all of that time off your plate, and then just push seller ready calls to you. So if you are in that still working a W-2 situation, you've got some cash flow, but you don't have time flow, then that can be a perfect solution. On the back end, on the dispo side, there's tons of dispo solutions that you can use that will save a bunch of time, and you can definitely outsource that way. So yeah, I agree with you. I think outsource early and often, just do it in a smart way. As long as it's vetted through someone like yourself and it's connected to a larger process, then yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think having that kind of checks and balances is really helpful. Honestly, sometimes it's just a matter of like a sanity check. There's another example of somebody I worked with. I worked with a particular gentleman on and off for about 2 years, and he wasn't getting breakthrough. He was also struggling, like he had limited marketing capital, so he was just cold calling from his cell phone. But he came and just shadowed my wife for a time, and ended up he's going to be working with our team for a year, which is, by the way, another great way to get into all this is to go and work for somebody who's doing what you want to do, because then you get to be paid to learn the business. And that's how I kind of came up with simple wholesaling and the breast Snodgrass and stuff. Anyway, all that aside, 2 days, literally 2 days into cold calling with my wife, he got like 3 contracts. And I was sick at the time when this happened, and I called the guy and I'm like literally sick. What was the difference? Because I'm like flabbergasted. Like literally nothing changed except and his response. He had my wife right there on Slack huddle the entire time, even though she was on mute, he was on mute. Any issue that he ran into, she was right there. And that comfort, that like co-working environment seemed to be a big breakthrough piece. And so, being able to facilitate that, looking and circling back to mentorship, like it's very important to have people who know your unique, like who will go into the psychology and go into your hurdles and help you solve. Because honestly, it's so crazy, but to go from no deal to your first deal could take 1.5 years sometimes for some people without coaching. But it goes from from their first deal to their second can be a day. Like it can be like way faster. There's a big psychological shift getting over the mental block between no deal to your first deal then to your second and beyond.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, Jaren, I know you wanted to maybe share your screen and dive into some of what were the 3 tenets that you said?
Here in a minute.
Yeah, because we had 310 group asked, how do you vet for a coach specifically and exclusively for using a texting platform like Launch Control? I think this kind of segues nicely into some of the other stuff that you wanted to talk about, Jaren. But the short answer for me is asking the question of whether Launch Control is a button on their website as a referral, or it is an actual integrated part of their business structure. If it's something that they're using as an integrated part of their business structure, and they're connected with John from our customer success team, who's on the screen here, connected to me, they're going to be, most likely what we would dub as super users, right? And they're going to be a lot more tapped into best practices, tapped into any changes or new feature releases coming up on the app. So, being an actual hands-on user versus just a recommender, I think is probably step one.
I agree. And yeah, 1,000%, especially if you're looking for, essentially, if you were to level up the playing field, look for somebody who's doing what you want to do, and then go pay them money to teach you how to do what they do, or pay them money for you to hang out with them all day, so that you can get it through osmosis. Okay, that's you can distill it down to that, but make sure you're very clear on that. And if it's texting, me and my wife, we've been texting exclusively, I think close to 3.5 years. In full transparency, my wife got started with launch control for the first 2.5 years, something like that. And then in 2023, with March, there's a big launch control scare. She moved to Smarter Contact. Now she's set up over there, but I'm slow boiling the frog to get her back over to the launch control side. But my second land business that I'm actually in the trenches of, Zion, we only are texting to get deals, and we're averaging about 3 to 4 months, so about one a week roughly right now. I'm trying to really solidify that one a week, but we're closer to the three mark right now, 3 and some change. So yeah. All that being said, so we can transition. I hope that high level is helpful, but I do want to kind of shift gears. I want to get into the weeds on how I've used launch control. And I guess in some ways this is going to be kind of a soft pitch to what it's like to, or what I'll be setting up for you if we work together in a membership capacity at Land Maverick Society. But I want to make sure that you guys catch my heart. I'm not trying to push that. And I only want people to come and be a part of our community if it's the right fit. So I'm probably the worst salesman. I do not teach people how to get land deals this way. But when it comes to the members, I'm much more chill, because it's a much bigger lift, and I just want to make sure that it's always the right fit. So how do I share my screen? I'm going to show you guys, just try to give some real value here. But how do I share my screen? How do I get in?
There's a present button at the bottom.
Okay.
Just hit that, and then I'll.
All right. Share screen. I'm going to share screen, entire screen, and I'm going to do this monitor. All right, cool. You guys are seeing it? You should be seeing Google. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Seeing it. All right, cool. So right now, I was actually in the process of setting up somebody right before this call, who I work with in terms of setting up their templates and all that. Let me, how do I best showcase this to you? Because I don't want to get too much into the weeds. I want to keep it more high level so that you guys grasp the concept. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to show, give me 2 seconds. I need to pull up something in, so 2 more seconds, guys.
Yeah, and just while Jaren's doing that, just reminded everyone, keep posting questions. I just put that in the chat. We'll get to everything in time if we're not able to get to it in the flow. And then just a quick reminder, I put up at the top of the chat a link to connect with our team if you want to look to implement any of these strategies. So book a time there or join our Facebook community. And then at the end, we're gonna share QR codes to connect with Jaren for Land Maverick Society as well. So just hang around and we'll get you all the info you need.
Okay. So just so you guys know what I'm showing, right now, the vast majority of our community uses Pebble REI as their CRM. And I have a whole setup with them where they carbon copy an environment. I already have set up a whole deal board and everything. And I don't know why I've been having trouble put this password today. Technology, why I'm trying to get in here. I'll just show it to you guys on Pebble since I'm already logged in. So let me get out of here.
And so for everyone listening, just a reminder, tomorrow's workshop is with Pebble. We got Kevin Rockwood with Pebble coming on to talk about CRM and systems.
You want to know some funny trivia?
Sure.
Way back in my tipster days, I actually coached Kevin in the land business. Can you believe that?
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's great.
It's so funny. It's funny to see us all like grow up together.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's a really good friend of mine. He used to live in Korea and he's in Wisconsin. We a lot of the land guys go to Korean spa. You're like in the elite in crowd if you ever end up at a Korean spa with a bunch of land guys. Just so you know.
I'm so glad you brought that up. This is like my favorite little Chicagoland area factoid. Is all y'all just go into Korean
just go
spas.
get naked together and like that's the best way to network. I tell you what, guys. If you want to just go get naked.
Your quote on our podcast, if you guys don't know, we have a podcast called Deal Nation. Take a look at that. But Jaren's quote on that is, I love going to the Korean spa with a bunch of land investors on a Monday and just looking at each other and going, it's pretty great being rich, right?
It was pretty good being rich. Tell you what. Funny enough, I was just at a Russian spa on Monday meeting another land investor named Peter Nukasani. He's a buddy of mine here in the Chicago area. Anyway, so if you're ever in the area, guys, hit me up. We'll go spa. Let's go. I'm all about it. So here's how I want to kind of explain the workflow. From the launch control side, with the quick replies, and this is a dummy account I'm setting up for somebody right now. So this is not my account. Otherwise, it'd have a lot more stats. But if we understand the templates, right? If you guys are familiar with how the quick replies work, right? You're in the inbox. So actually, I need to push this to CRM anyway. So I'm going to verify this number, and because for the Zapier setup, I need to push this anyway. But you come down here and see these quick replies. These quick replies under this account is not actually set up yet, so I don't have any. But I will push that to CRM just for and I'll keep that open. I'm going to set that as a hot lead just to make sure. Anyway, wait a second here. Hot lead. Sweet. So if we were to distill it down, you could break down what our workflow is into 3 buckets. So we have responses, we have prospects, and we have leads. Responses are the first phase of influx responses from us sending out batches. And that's a lot of filtering. There's 3 primary filters that we've distilled down in our workflow. We have further screening, which are literally for the quick replies, 95% of the time, people are just copying and pasting. They're not actually doing a lot of screening or back and forth communication in launch control. We're pushing it to Pebble and managing all of that within Pebble. So all that being said, further screening are, if they're skeptical, how did you get my information? Who are you? You just need further information to determine whether or not they are what we call a positive persona or negative persona. You can call this avatar if you wanted to as well. But positive personas graduate. They're people who are open to selling in any form or fashion, not necessarily at a discount, which is crucial for our business model to work, but anybody who's willing to sell. Then from there, they get pushed from launch control into our CRM, and then we do a quick and dirty land.id check to just make sure that the property is viable and justifies a conversation with the seller. Then we push to a qualification call outreach, and I'll kind of go through the workflow here in a second in Pebble. But that's positive personas. They get pushed out of launch control. Negative personas die in launch control. So you have 3, right? You got positive, negative, and further screening because you need information to determine if they're negative or positive. So anybody, even if they seem like they're trolling me and they're like, yeah, for $1 million, we push to Pebble because once we get on that qualification call, magic happens. One of the first deals we got in Zion, September 4th, we started a brand new land business. It's kind of a science laboratory, if you will, just to flesh out best practices in the wild. And one of the deals, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like originally they asked for like 45,000 and we bought it for like 24,000 or something. Because once we got on the phone, we're like, hey, just so you know, I know sometimes people troll via text, but because you now know we're a real person, who we are, in our business model, we need you to work with us on the numbers, etc. So we're not going to be anywhere close to that. Are you okay with us presenting an offer? Yeah, sure. Now that we know that you're legit, blah blah blah. So anyway, this is the crux of the backbone of our workflow, and it automates the process because there's not a lot of back and forth. We're just pushing. So I would have a quick reply for this. Yes, thank you. I would say, okay, so I have a, if we were to look into quick replies, I have a interested, right? So I would run with this. I love to hear you open making something happen. I'll call you here in the next day or so. So anyway, that is the main crux. And then the workflow, this is my magic bullet, just to like give stats so you guys understand the power of using launch control correctly and using it in a very efficient manner. My wife is at Smarter Contact. It's not an apples to apples comparison because Smarter Contact charges for all total text. Launch control is way better, and they only charge you for outbound text. So all the back and forth is unlimited, which is ridiculous and amazing. And launch control, you guys are great. So let's say, though, just for example, that 60,000 texts, she's on the tier where she's doing 100,000 texts total per month, and oftentimes has to re-up for extra credit. She's doing between 8 to 12 deals a month. Like, and I say she, it's my business too. I own half of it, but she runs the day to day. She's the girl boss. She runs the team. So, like, we're doing 8 to 12 deals on, say, 60,000 total outbound text. On 20,000 text and launch control with our workflow, we did, let's call her average deal 10, 8 to 12, let's call it 10. We did 5 deals over a 60-day period, just shy of 20,000 text and launch control, where we did half of her deal volume on a third of the total outbound text because we did it efficiently. And I think a lot of the magic bullet boils down to not proceeding to the next step unless the current step justifies the next step. So, like, for example, positive persona, quick land.id. I'm not going to have a conversation with them and reach out to them until I know the property is at least at a surface level viable for our investment purposes. So then from there, if it passes, it'll go to a qualification call, priority 1 and priority 2. You could also call this week 1, week 2. Essentially, for 14 days, we triple dial, and we're very aggressive. The vast majority of the time, people don't answer until the third call. So we triple dial, leave a text, leave a voicemail, send a text 3 times a day. And we do that for 14 days. So this would be week 1, week 2. Then it's comps, and then these ones we can ignore. I should delete these out of this account. This is just leftover from them inheriting it from mine. So comps, age evaluation, offer call. So I want to show you guys on Trello, but offer call, we treat it the same way. So I'm going to add a column after this where it's the offer call week 1, week 2, and it's the same thing, triple dial, outreach 3 times a day for 2 weeks. And I think that this qualification, I use a lot of finesse in the way that I use the verbiage, but I will not present an offer to somebody who doesn't verbally say, yes, I will entertain a lower than market value offer. I don't say it that way, but I say, hey, I'm an investor. I'm looking to make a deal happen. I need you to work with me on the numbers, blah, 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 blah. But we actually have some qualification calls queued up on schedule for me to call live for you guys. If you guys want to proceed there, I can shift the gears that way. But do you want to do some Q&A while I'm trying to log in here? I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, so there 310 group asked, and I want to clarify this is per month, not per week, but can you quantify the 3 or 4 deals a week? Is that using a light, core, pro, or enterprise launch control subscription?
I think conservatively, you should be between 2 to 4 deals a month on the light tier, the $500 a month tier.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's what we just bumped up just to have a little bit of more inbound leads. But like if we were to shoot down to 2 a month, like you can conservatively say 1 to 2 deals a month, you're doing something wrong if you're not getting at least 1 to 2 deals a month on the lowest tier of launch control. Straight up.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll add to that is really the metric that you really want to measure in launch control, from my opinion, is how many of the inbound texts, so how many of the texts that you got in your inbox were you able to have that offer conversation with, or at least a discovery call level conversation with, right? Because if, let's say that on that light package, if you got, say, 30 discovery calls with homeowners, or even if the text was taking the place of a discovery call, but you were in that discovery phase, and it's not a question of launch control or which subscription you're on, that's sales conversion processes. That's working with someone like Jaren to be able to take a lead from at least mild interest to offer sheet, right? And so bumping up your volume, if you're not converting enough of that 30, isn't going to make a difference, right? It's converting that 30 that matter. You get that dialed in, then you can bump up your volume. Then because you've got a proven system in place. So, don't increase volume until you're locked in.
I'm so glad you said, man, I'm so glad you said it straight from the horse's mouth, because I tell my members all the time, I'm like, there's no reason for you to be on the higher tiers of launch control until you guys are converting.
Yeah.
Like, it's just straight up. So I love it. I love that you said it, not me, this time around.
No, I mean, it's something that I really like to reiterate with our subscribers is we are not in the business of selling you a bunch of text messages to send out. Others might be. We're not. We're in the business of helping you generate discovery calls, whether you're in distressed properties or land. And at that point, like, working with someone like you makes us look better in all transparency. Because if they're working with mentors and they've got a good system for closing in place, people are going to look back and be like, yeah, I got 4 deals that started with launch control, but they don't close. Those deals don't close unless you've got those processes really dialed in. So that's why we're here today. It's really imperative to have people that you can trust and work with to get that back end side of things just nailed,
Yep, I agree, man. I 100% agree. And I gotta talk cost too, because texting is way cheaper than direct mail. Like, I probably convert people more to texting from direct mail than like anything else, because I mean, it's just in our business model. In most markets, we get 1 deal for every 3,000 units of mail. So in order for us to do 10 deals a month, we need to send out 30,000 units of mail. Even if you bought in bulk, at best, you're spending $15,000 a month. More realistically, you're spending between $17,000 and $20,000 a month. I told you about I Buy Land, where my wife is the girl boss, doing 8 to 12 deals a month. At worst, including the cost of skip tracing and pulling the list and all that, $5,000 a month is what we're spending to get, roughly 10 deals a month. So, I mean, it's without question. Like, and I sleep better at night because my wife actually just got threatened to be sued. Somebody hustled her out of $500 to go away. That doesn't happen on launch control. So, there's all these nice things I can say about launch control. Anyway, getting back to what I have pulled up here. So I just, do you think it would be helpful? I mean, we got about 20 minutes. Do you guys want me to make some calls?
Yeah. I would love for you to do that, Jaren. That'd be great. I mean, you guys can give a thumbs up in the chat if that's something you want to hear, but I'd be shocked if you didn't. I did want to touch on that direct mail point that you made, because you said something the other day when you and I were talking. You said that for you, direct mail should always be used not as a shotgun approach, but as a sniper approach. And I thought that was a great way to phrase it, because if you're running a land business, and let's say that you use launch control for a year, and you're bringing in an average of 2 to 4 deals a month using on a light package, you're stacking cash, right? Like, you've got a good amount of cash flow left. And at that point, if you want to, do some buy and hold so that you could do some subdivides and then make money off of subdivides, well, picking those limited numbers that you want to go after for potential subdivide properties, and then direct mail piecing those in, like you said, like a sniper kind of fashion, like a much lower volume, but with very direct purpose, can be super powerful. Like, not to discredit it as an inbound lead source, it can work, But when you're super targeted with it and you can keep the cost down and it fulfills, a specific want for you, that's a lot better than you going into a new county and just throwing out flyers and hoping somebody calls you,
Yeah. Yeah. And people, even when we talk about saturation in the states where there is more land investors, the vast majority of them are doing other stuff besides texting. So you have like a competitive edge there. Like if you want to get a hold of me, if I own land, you got to text me. If I'm not listening to voicemails, I'm not reading my mail. My mail gets filtered through like various people in my family before it ever gets to me. Like the only way you're gonna get me is if you somehow find my phone number and you text me.
Yeah.
And if you text me back, because I get text and then I text them back, and these investors, I don't know what's up with them. These like wannabes or newbies or something. They don't even text me back. I don't know what the problem is.
If I can chip in, guys, sorry to interrupt. On that note, I had a couple of users that I was doing onboarding with, and I was just giving them some instructions how to do texting for land investing. We always, asking what kind of other strategies are they using. Some of them were using direct mail, and they were actually starting to use launch control just to follow up with those direct mails. And I told them at the end of the day, you got to compare the cost of both things, both methods, and weigh them out. And basically instructing them how they can follow up on those mails in a best possible way through launch control. But told them to give it a shot, to try doing just SMS marketing instead of direct mail to some of those prospects. And few of them already saw the benefits of just doing SMS marketing, got off direct mail very quickly because they literally saw the benefits of doing the text. The text to prospects that haven't been mailed yet generated definitely more deals for them than the direct mail itself. So it was just wasting of money in that sense.
Yep. And like Michael said, I do want to emphasize there's a place for it. Probably an automatic follow-up as a sniper, just because it's so expensive. When I first got started, it was like 48 cents a record. Now it's like 70. It's just and it continues to go up. So you got to find cheaper sources of deals. So and texting, especially with launch control, because of how like fanatical they are about being compliant and staying and working within confines of the carriers and stuff. Like they're gonna be the last man standing if in terms of like texting being a viable option for cold outreach and all that. So you're in the safest boat. Like so. As long as it's a viable strategy, this is the place to be. And I'm not going anywhere. I have all of our like 98% of our community, I think, is all on launch control, and the rest are planning on switching from mail to launch control once they have the deal flow for it.
Awesome.
So anyway, yeah, guys. So I'm slacking. I'm slacking my team to get the list of like order of priority, because there's a bunch. I don't know how they organize it. So give me 2 seconds here, and I don't know what's going on with my computer. Come on, man. What's happening here? All right, there you go. And then, all right, sweet. So I got it. So let me share my screen, and then I will proceed accordingly. Now, when do we have a firm stop? 10 minutes? What's the situation?
We don't have a firm stop. Like let's just keep it going until we're done, basically.
Okay. Let me on my side make sure I don't run over, because I'm horrible at schedule stuff. So I do have I do okay, so I'm good. I got a good 20-ish minutes or so. So let's keep going then, guys. You ready? Whoa.
No.
I'm going all meta on you guys.
I think if you change the screen so it's not showing us.
I'm sharing the wrong screen. Yep. Good call. Entire screen.
The early 1994 Windows screensaver going.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Okay, so this is my I need to update this. This is not all accurate. That's annoying. Okay. Anyway, so let's let me pull up Slack real quick. You guys not seeing the Slack on that side. So okay, the first person for us to call is gonna be Willie Austin. So this is an offer call. So this is unexpected. I was prepped yesterday that we had no offer calls, but this one came through. So this is actually one where I will be presenting an offer. That's a little bit more complicated though. I don't want to. I'm gonna hold off on this one, guys. I'm gonna come back if we have time because I want to showcase the qualification. Everybody kind of knows generally how an offer call will go, but I think a big magic bullet to us, our workflow being so efficient, is this and dying at this stage. To give you guys perspective, and you guys are seeing my screen, right? As I'm pulling this up and getting everything ready.
Yeah.
So, give you perspective. I did just shy of 20,000 total text and launch control over 60 days. We had 24, I remember the number exactly, responses. So we had, it's called 2,400 total responses. Out of 2,400 responses, we had 340 positive personas, or people that were pushed from launch control into our CRM. And then from 340, we had 7 contracts. So like, and from a processing standpoint, you're processing a lot more volume with texting compared to direct mail. So just please keep that in mind. And because a lot of times people are like, the vast majority of the people I'm talking to are not interested, and da 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 da. That's normal. Welcome to texting. So like don't. It's just a little thing I constantly have to address. So it's good to address it now. Like 340 like positive personas, and then I got 7 contracts. So all of the other ones died, and then 2 of those contracts fell through from a due diligence standpoint. And then so we have 5 of them that came through. 1 of them already sold, and then the rest are on the market right now. So why am I in Texas? All right, all right. So going to Georgia. So what I'm showcasing you guys right now is pretty much a standard tool in the land business. Pebble has, if you have a data service provider that gives you latitude, longitude, you can have a similar function. But this right here, here's every land investor who's worth their salt, if they use this or they use an equivalent to it. So, and they have used it at some point in their life. All right, so going Charlton. So I'm not vetting the property. I could vet the property through this. I can look up wetlands and get a 3D viewer and a bunch of stuff. But my team has already done it. I'm just wanting to get an idea of the property. I am going to do a 3D viewer just to get an idea of elevation, which is relatively flat. So we're solid there. All right. So then, okay. And then he might not pick up because it says 1 to 130, but that's fine. All right. So, reading through what correspondences transpired. Okay, cool. So that's, so they were just texting back and forth then. All right. So awesome. Sweet. So I am going to grab the phone number, start conversation. Here we go, guys. Hey, Vincent, this is Jaren Barnes with Zion Land. I hope I caught you. I know I'm a little bit later than I thought. My assistant set us up for somewhere between 1 and 1:30. That's a little bit over that. Is this still a good time for us to chat? Okay, perfect. Well, I'll be brief, man. I just wanted to get to know each other a little bit. I want the way how I like to do business. I want to get to know you, have you get to know me, address your questions, all that, and kind of explain how our business model works and kind of what you're getting into with a cash offer and all that. So, yeah. So I don't have it yet. So I can get it to you within the next 48 hours or so. But what I want to address is just here's the thing, just shooting straight with you. Brass tacks. We're a land holdings company, so we're looking to make a deal happen with you. We're all cash. We close as soon as title is ready. We cover all extra fees involved, but we'd be wanting you to work with us a little bit to make a deal happen where it's a win-win for the both of us. So as long as you are willing to work with us on the numbers, again, we cover all fees. The number we agree on is what you're going to walk away with at the closing table. I mean, it's probably going to be the easiest real estate transaction you ever do, but it isn't going to be the same price as if you were to list it with a realtor. Are you okay with that? If so, I'll continue a number. A number. Got you. Wow. Yeah. And do you have a particular number in mind that would work for you, or you want me to throw the first number out and just kind of? I know how it works in negotiations, man. No problem at all. I got you. So let me run my numbers, and I'll be in touch with you. If not, by the end of this week, first of next week, and let's see if we can make something happen. Awesome, sir. Talk soon. Yeah. All right. So I had to be a little bit rushed on that one, but I get the point. But that right there is more or less um, the magic bullet to our process working. My wife essentially does blind offers via text, and so she
So
has.
Jaren, just a heads up because of technology, we
You
weren't
weren't able
able
to hear
to
it?
hear what he was saying. We heard you perfectly, but we didn't hear his response. So what was just in just a quick overview? What was his tone like? What kind of per the questions
I
below?
can
What
play
kind of
it. I recorded it.
questions did he have?
I did record it, so I could potentially play it.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Can you guys hear this?
No.
Hold on, nothing's there. Can you hear that? You didn't hear any of that?
No.
Let me see if I share. Let me see if I present and I present on a tab instead of. Yeah, this is powered by Google Meet underneath. The same limitations. Okay, cool. So you guys should be able to hear it now. I got you. I know I'm a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, we can hear you. Let's see if we can hear him.
Yeah. Then if it's worth it to catch the audio, let's check it out. And then this might be the only one that I do, guys, for sake of time. Fortunately.
No, of course.
Let's Vincent.
Hey, Vincent, this is Jaren Barnes with Zion Land. I hope I caught you. I know I'm a little bit later than I thought. My set us up for somewhere between 1:30 over that.
It was Eastern time. I'm Central time.
It has to be. Actually, can I call you back like in about? Let's shoot real quick. I've only got like about 3 minutes. My buddy's about to come up.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll be brief, man. I just wanted to get to know each other a little bit. I want the way how I like to do business. I want to get to know you, have you address your questions, all that, and kind of explain how our business model works and what you're getting into with a cash offer and all that. So
What's? I mean, we could skip right to the chase, and I appreciate all that. What's the number?
So I don't have it yet. So I can
Okay.
get it to you within the next 48 hours or so. But what I
Okay.
want to address is just here's the thing. Just shooting straight with you. Brass tacks. We're a land holdings company, so we're looking to make a deal happen with you. We're all cash. We close as soon as title is ready. We cover all extra fees involved. But you know, we'd be wanting you to work with us a little bit to make a deal happen where it's a win-win for the both of us. So as long as you are willing to work with us on the numbers, you know, again, we cover all fees, the number we agree on, which you're going to walk away with at the closing table. I mean, it's probably going to be the easiest real estate transaction you ever do, but it isn't going to be the same price as if you were to list it with a realtor. Are you okay with that? If so,
yeah, I mean, like I said, well, again, it all, I'm okay with all of it, buddy. I just want to hear, you know, whatever, after you get to the number piece, then to your point of like, you know, kind of the nuances of the deal, or you guys paying the closing costs, or however we decide to do it, that I'm open to that. But as I shared with one of your colleagues, you know, I've held on to this. You know, you can look at the records. I've held on to this property for almost 20 years. I don't even recall how long I've had it. And the reason why I like it is because it's on the St. Mary's River, and it's just a matter of time, I think, before a bigger developer or something happens on that. And so, you know, like you said, I'm going to be straight with you. You know, if the number sounds crazy, then, you know, then it sounds crazy, and I'll respect that, but I'm not going to do anything about it. If the number sounds, you know, reasonable, then fine there too. So, right. So, you know, it's the difference between all I really care about right now is what's the number. Once we know the number, then we.
Is there a number in mind that works for you, or you want me to throw the first number out? And just
I want you to throw the first number out.
I know how it works in negotiations, man. No problem at all. I got you.
All right. So cool.
Let me run my numbers, and I'll be in touch with you. If not, by the end of this week, first of next week, and let's see if we can make something happen.
Sounds great, buddy. You have a.
Right. So questions on all that? Anything? I think that's maybe, if it's cool with you, maybe we just do like any kind of Q&A stuff, and maybe I'll.
Yeah. So guys, that was great. I'll give you a second to go ahead and pop your questions into the chat. So please do that so that Jaren can answer them directly. But Jaren, to turn this back to the theme of today of mentorship, I heard several things on that call that are early misses for investors when they don't have mentorship. They don't work with mentors, right? So a couple of things that you did was you really set the stage you set the stage with your tone, for one. It wasn't aggressive. It was you know, professional, but like friendly and complimentary. You also set the stage in terms of you guys being a land holding company and how you conduct business. And you asked him if he had a number in mind so that you could potentially get that as a gauge point. And you really, and right off the top, you said, I want to get to know you and give you a chance to get to know me. You didn't start with, hey man, I've got a cash offer in mind. I get you the offer in 24 hours. What's, you know, you didn't go straight to the bludgeoned approach, right? Like you made it a conversation. And a lot of those kind of one-to-one personal connection kind of things, people skip right past that. And they just want to make it, they're having a conversation that they should be having with a buyer on the dispo side, with a seller on the property ownership side.
Or they're asking due diligence questions to a seller that, one, probably doesn't know if they're out of state or if they're older. And if two, they do know, they might be lying to you and not disclosing it because they're trying to get rid of a dumpy property. So like, why are you asking them these questions unless there's legitimate reason to ask them? Like there's actually a barrier to access. Like you can call the county, like they exist. You know, you can actually go to the the source of truth and get directly from the horse's mouth. So I'm with you, man. It's the biggest pet peeve of mine when people sound like they're a call center. Like, especially with the land demographic, these people are country. They don't trust people. They want to meet you in person and shake your hand. And the best they get is a phone call. So like you gotta get away. You need to err on the side of being personal and being Joe Bob from the neighbor down the street. That's how you need to come across them.
That was another thing that I loved that you did there was you didn't panic offer, right? He said, like, give me a number. You didn't like quickly go into Pebble and look at the property details and go, $8 grand-ish, right? You said, I don't know. I don't know yet. I'll get you an answer later this week or at the latest, the beginning of next week. and you set a professional time frame to get him a professional response, right? Of like a really thought out, researched, firm number, and instead of panic offering, which sometimes people do. You know, it's like, oh, I've got him on the phone. This is a moment. I got to grab the moment. Eminem's playing in the background of their head, you know, and then they, you know, and then they just blurt it out,
That's funny.
right? Yeah, and so you know, it's good to work with mentors that are going to say, slow down, give them a time frame, right? That's not the kind of, you're not going to read that a lot in blogs. You're not going to get that if you don't have a strong sales background. You're not going to know that instinctively, right? So having mentorship is clutch for that kind of thing.
And somebody to role play with. Like we role play all the time, and like because you can combat with me, and I routinely call sellers just like I did here with people live, either one-on-one or in various formats. And we do this with agents. The agent talk track's a little bit different than sellers, but you know, this is our workflow. So like oftentimes they're just wanting to get a number, but I just tell them straight up, I don't know yet. And the whole point of my calling is make sure that we're a good fit, make sure it's even worthwhile for me to even run like my numbers and get you an offer. So anyway, guys, what anybody got questions? I don't see, I just see private. Oh, comments. Wow. Oh,
there you go.
Private chat. Now I'm
so
seeing.
Will the offer go via text or call? That's a good question.
Well, always a call for me. I'm pretty adamant. Like I try to get away from texting as quickly as possible. Sometimes though, the prospect will request to correspond via text. And if after 14 days of trying to get on the phone, I will text them the offer and then trigger, like if all our systems were properly set up, automatic follow-up, which would be it would be a text, and then it would trigger a letter to go out in the mail with a offer attached to it.
What was a typical call response? Like, what's your thought process for moving forward on offer price 50 to 60% if your due diligence checks out and you want to make an offer? The last comment there from Cheer Life.
Was that a typical call response? Yes, that was typical, except for the fact that he was rushed. He was meeting with a friend. What's your thought process for moving forward on offer price? So it depends in land. It depends on the price point range. So if we talk acquisition price, if we're buying, well, let's talk market value price. So if we're buying with a market value, a list price of under 30,000, you generally need to be buying at 25 to 35 cents on the dollar. It's pretty typical. Because if you think about the actual dollar spreads, if I buy a property at 5 and I sell it for 15, like that's $10,000 spread, right? But like with agent commissions and other things, that can whittle down really quickly to just two grand or so. You got to just be very careful with that, or not use agents, or do kind of a different strategy. My model and our funding criteria for our members, minimum buy at 15, list at 30,000. With no extra like stuff, like no extra survey costs. That's kind of our minimum. And then we'll kind of generally fund up to 250,000, sometimes more, but like kind of, I'll say our average buy was probably around 35,000 and list probably 75,000 is probably the threshold of what's normal, right? In our, up until you start getting into the 6-figure range, it's pretty normal to do 50 cents on the dollar. So like 50% of market value or list price. So list price, I want to be clear because sometimes those are not mutually exclusive terms. So 50% of list price. So I often will sell maybe 10%, 15% under list price. Sometimes I get it for a full price offer, but I'm buying 50% of the list price, just so that you guys are clear on that. If it's an area that I know super well, that I've done deals in for years and years, and I have an agent that I've done tons of business with, I might bump up to like say 60%. But generally we're keeping it closer to 50, because with land, valuations are really hard, and it's very, we have a high likelihood of making a mistake, and we want to have so much margin of error that if we make a major mistake, we're still making money. So, and for deal funding and stuff, it's very typical to buy minimum 50 cents on the dollar. If your due diligence checks out, and you make an offer. Yeah. So due diligence has various phases. So there's going to be a certain amount of due diligence that happens after I make an offer and get it under contract with the due diligence period. But the bulk of it we can get done before we actually make the offer. Is it he who mentions price first loses? Yeah, pretty much. Like you have the easiest way to say it is you have not loses, but like whoever throws the number out first has the disadvantage or the position of disadvantage in the negotiation. So I mean, you can still win, but like because I actually made a mistake there. If I were to critique my own call, I sold it for him. I should have said, what do you have an offer in mind? Quiet, stop talking. But I kept going and then I answered for him. Or do you want to blah blah blah? I put words in his mouth. But I'm so used to it. I made a mistake there. But it doesn't matter if he puts I mean, we get deals all the time and we throw out the numbers the majority of the time first. But you do have
it's a great point though. Like a good pause in a call can make a world of difference. You know.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, man. I think the biggest thing for me, like the biggest takeaway, if nothing else, on the qualification call is I'm getting their buy-in. If you guys are familiar with Seth Godin, permission marketing, if anybody familiar with that, that's kind of like a OG one now at this stage, but it's one of the best ones ever. Permission marketing is one of the best marketing books of all time. You guys should definitely check it out. But essentially, we're putting out a signal through our marketing efforts that get people to buy in. And then on top of that, I'm reinforcing that and really strongly emphasizing that on the qualification. I was saying, hey, this is the circumstances of which I can present you an offer. Do I have your buy? Yes? Okay, I'll present you an offer and we'll see if it works. But it filters it down where if they're a no, they're gonna be like, no, I got so much money invested and the area is going up, and I'm this and that, I got this going on. You can very quickly tell on that qualification call if they're not motivated and they're not going to move from market value or above market value. So, anyway, do you have an offer in mind? Is a great rebuttal, yeah. And that's something I try to ask for every call, because if they give you an offer, I give them a higher priority in land at least, because if they're so disattached that they're like, yeah, I mean, this is my number, take it or leave it, then there's a higher likelihood of conversion. It's not always going to convert, but it's a higher probability. It's all a game of probability. It's all cards. So anyway, yes, sir. So 310 group. Any other ones that we want to address, guys, on here?
I wanted to address one. Bio Money had the question: are age demographics considered when starting a text campaign? For example, maybe baby boomers are largely dismissive of text. Just curious. Go ahead. I have an answer to this too, but I'd love to hear yours.
I'm actually curious to hear yours because I haven't run the data. I know generally from conversion that senior citizens convert. So 55 and older convert better generally from an age demographic. But sometimes it is harder to get mobile numbers for them. But I did see with the rise of COVID, a lot of baby boomers were onboarded into like FaceTime and mobile and text and that kind of stuff. So I am curious about, I have a very similar question actually. Like I'm curious how that works with mobile.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys remember I said, right, that it's the purpose, the metrics that you're really looking for is how many from the inbox, how many respondents are discovery call ready, right, are willing to have a conversation. So the chess move that you want to make with your data strategy is figuring out when they say yes and they raise their hand, you having the ability to group them together so you know who you're talking to. So if you've got like a tag, and you can set custom tags in Launch Control, and if you set a custom tag, for instance, it says like 60 plus as an age demographic, and you add that tag, then you can filter and you can go into your calls knowing that the person on the other end that you're calling is 60 plus. So that tells you, because of the demographic of the recipient, that you might need to work on building trust. So that kind of the approach that you just took, that non-blunt approach on the call, would work very, very well with an older landowner, because they want to know who you are. They're very leery of scam calls, right, and scam attempts, and they want to know that you're a straight shooter. But when you're able to know that by front loading your data strategy and importing data that's down to specific demographics, so that you know when those inbound responses come in, who you're talking to and what your play is going to be, that chess move can be really, really, really important in terms of your overall ROI. And there's a million ways that you can do that in terms of data segmentation. You can segment it in terms of who your expected end buyer is going to be, right? Are you selling this as farmland? Are you selling this to somebody who wants to buy it as hunting property? Is this somebody going to build a single family home on it? You can segment data that way. You can segment it by recipient. Are they out of state? And if they're out of state, adding a secondary filter for, like, how long they've held the property for. So you can get into kind of a sweet spot of this person's out of state. They've had the property for 3+ years. If they were going to do something with it, they probably would have by now. I feel like this is a good in. And you go in knowing when you hit that discovery call that you're talking to somebody who doesn't live near the land and has been sitting on it for a while. So it gives you insight going into that call. It's far more impactful on your ability to close that call than it is on the overall percentage of people that are going to respond. The truth is, if you send out 1,000 messages and you try 10 different variations of messages, they're not going to fluctuate more than 1 or 2% in terms of response rate. Text gets what it gets. The question is, when you get that 15 to 18% that raised their hand and got into the inbox, and then filtered them down to say the 3 to 5% that are conversation ready, again, what do you do with it, right? So you're setting the stage for that moment.
Yeah, I love it. And we didn't even talk about all the stuff you can do with launch control on the dispo side. I just had a deep dive session with one of our members yesterday who has a bunch of inventory he needs to let go of. And I was like, do this kind of text campaign, this kind of text campaign, this kind of text campaign, and all through launch control because he signed up, right? So, because I mean, honestly, you can hire a guy on Fiverr for $100 to scrape agents, land specialized agents around your subject property, and give him some, whatever criteria. $100. A day or two later, you got a list of mobile numbers for agents, and all of a sudden, you can now blast out to agents about your property on the dispo side.
Very, very underutilized side of launch.
So much.
Couldn't recommend that more.
Yeah.
I think we have one more question if you've got time, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
In your coaching experience, what is the biggest hurdle people have to overcome to become successful and move into at least 2 to 4 deals per month?
All right. So honestly, it's going to be probably unexpected. It's not getting a quick win fast. As weird as it sounds statistically, because I mean, people are probably looking for some kind of life principle, like hustle or some kind of virtue, and I do agree. Like I have a lot to say about being the tortoise versus the hare, and all that. So there's a lot that I could say to work ethic and so on. But I think statistically, the number one source of people not sticking around and having long-term success is not getting a quick win fast enough, because then they get demoralized. And when they get demoralized, they stop having faith in the viability of the business model. And then they start selling sellers on not selling their property to them. I've heard some of the calls when people are like, this isn't working, I'm spending all this money. And then they're like, yeah, the only thing I could give you is like $25,000, and that's probably not going to work for you. So yeah, I mean, I get it if it doesn't, like that kind of stuff. It's like, dude, keep your mouth shut. What are you doing? So anyway, all that being said, that's the number one. Everyone that I know of in the land business who has had longevity, within the first 90 days, had some kind of a win that gave them the faith to withstand the turbulent waters of their learning curve. So figuring out that is, I think if you can just get to a deal the fastest way possible, even if you don't make a lot of money, you just get it under your belt, that will be the fastest way to getting your success. Now, don't lose money. Make sure you make money, but even if you don't make a ton of money, just getting something done. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well,
optimism is actually a really important thing, guys. faith and hedge stuff, as woo as it sounds, it's like it actually works. So if you're gonna be in business, you gotta open up yourself to some of that stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, for everyone that's with us, you can see on screen, got a couple of QR codes here. The one on the left is for Land Maverick Society. If you want to connect with Jaren and join that.
Also send the text. Can we do that real quick for the chat?
Yeah, of course.
Send, if you guys want a free 30-minute business coaching call with me, text the word launch to 219.
Hang on one second. Text launch to 219.
Yeah, 419-7792. I'm just checking to make sure. I'm 99% sure. Just 1 second. Yeah. Yep, exactly. 219-419-7797.
7797. Okay.
97, yes, sir. And
I'm
love to hang out,
into
guys.
the chat right now, and you let me know if I got that right, but I think so.
Let me check. Yep, that's it.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so send that text the word launch to that number in the chat to book a time with Jaren. And then if anybody is looking to connect with the launch control team just to kind of discuss text engagement strategy or potentially get a subscription going for your business, scan that QR code on the right. Another way, if you're looking to get started ASAP, you want to talk to our team today, I put a calendar booking link at the top of the chat, and it's also in the description for this event. So if you just click on that link, you can book a time this afternoon or tomorrow to talk with the team. So would certainly encourage you to do that as well. Jaren, any parting thoughts for the people?
Just use launch control, guys. I mean, I'm a pretty strong advocate of it because I see firsthand that it not only works in my own land business, but in dozens of other people's land businesses as well. Like it's bang for your buck. It's really hard to beat what you can do with text if you do it right. So,
Awesome.
But also you get out what you put in. So like learn it, master it, like internalize it, make it your own. Because then you'll be able to get results. So.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say is, look, even if you're already closing deals, lean on a mentor and find a really good community. It's why we had this today. It's really important for just confidence, stability, and growth with your business. And I think it should be very obvious by now why I specifically invited Jaren to come on from Land Maverick Society to talk to you guys. So I very much encourage you to take advantage of that and text launch to that number below and connect with him and his team. All right. Thanks, Jaren. I appreciate it. Everyone, thanks again for joining. We're gonna wrap this one up.
Privilege and an honor, sir. You as well, John. You guys have a good one, and on to the next one.
On to the next one. All right, bye.
Later.